Good morning, Brave Masters. I am live from Houston, Texas. I want to pop in here and do a little training session, making sure everything's working here, and talk to you about this conversation that I want to pop in here and do a little training session. Hold on. That happens every time. So just to make sure that people really get this conversation that I don't think enough people are talking about in business, and that is that there is a particular order of things in order to accelerate your cash flow. So the conversation is, what is required to accelerate cash flow in your business, right? It's the thing we all need, the thing we all are going after, because if we're in business, we know that cash flow is king. And if you don't have cash flow and revenue and things like that, you're a hobby, right? You're doing it for fun, which is an option. But we want to really look at what it is that thing that makes the difference. And I think it first starts with, how do we approach our business? And we have all this information out there and all these strategies or more importantly, tactics and activities that we can do that are not necessarily part of our strategy, right? Or we don't even know what our overall plan is or overall strategy is. We're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. So say if you're here live, make sure you jump in and let me know, say hi, and give me your name and where you're from, or at least hello, right? So I'm just making sure. The only way I can tell if you guys are on here and look at your comments is to have my phone in front of me. So anyway, so here's the quick conversation or training about this. There is something I call the vital pace, and that's a systematic way that I've made up that just kind of explains this concept of being able to create the necessary order and the pace of your strategic implementation, right? And overall business flow, right? To be successful, to not feel like you're, it's kind of like you try something and it doesn't work right away, because it's usually, there's a couple reasons. I mean, some you might not try long enough, or you're not giving it enough time to take, take hold. And then there's other times where it literally is just out of order. It's not time for that particular tactic or, activity. And so, for example, I see a lot of people, there's a lot of information out there. Just build a webinar and drive them to a course and people will buy and you'll be a millionaire. There's, so it's building a course or building business through webinars and I'm not saying these don't work. I use them. So, however, I'm using them in a particular phase of business that I'm in. And I know that there's a lot of people that are just in that startup phase. And personally, I think it's smarter to figure out what phase you're in and then be able to go, okay, this is what I prioritize, right? So I talk a lot about my evolution of a Brave Master. I'm going to put a link so that if you have never seen that, you can opt in for it and grab it for free and take it on and look at it, read it, find out, self-identify where you are. And so part of that tool is to find out where you are in the business. That's the number one. I'm going to share with you 3 key indicators or concepts that will help you figure out what your vital pace should be right now. And one is, what phase of business are you in on the evolution of a Brave Master? And so I will make sure you have that link so that you can self-identify what that phase is for you. Then the second thing that matters is, what is your current state of cash flow? If you are in startup, you haven't made any money in your business, and you're, clearly that's important, because otherwise you can't sustain a business with the things that you do need to invest in, whether it's systems or tools or team or paying yourself. I mean, all those things have to occur at some point. Then cash flow status does make an impact on what your vital pace is and where you are in that pace. Then number 3 is, what is your overall business model and your delivery funnel? So I talk a lot about brand delivery, and what that means to me is, it is how you distinctly and uniquely deliver the method and expertise that you bring or the products that you have. And it's also your sales funnel. It's that delivery funnel. So brand delivery incorporates both of those ideas. And so we all need to be clear on what our our delivery funnel is, what from freebie up to our highest level program, right? So you've heard a lot about that, I would imagine. And it's developing your programs and your pricing, right? What am I selling? How much am I selling it for? That's your brand or your delivery funnel. And inside of that, if you know what kind of business model you're running, you know, some people are storefronts, some people are online only, some people are building a virtual model, some people are, you know, it's like, especially in the coaching arena, such as myself, I'm a virtual business, and yet I incorporate masterminds and in-person intensives and things like that. So I'm clear on how I want to work with people, and I create programs and products and things like that to deliver on that model. So those are the three things. What phase of business are you in? Number one. Number two, what is your current cash flow status? And number three is, what is your overall business model and delivery funnel look like? And if that's just the challenge for you right now, it's like, I don't know those answers, then that's when you may want to reach out for support or have more of a strategist in your back pocket. And it's just true, because you might be too close to the situation to make those decisions for yourself. That's just something to think about, right? So the other thing I want to speak to is the vital pace really focuses in on priority to the fastest path to cash and building the foundation of your business, or building the next level of, you know, wherever you are in that evolution of a brave master. So if you're premature, it's like putting, you know, your pants on before you've put your undergarments on. Like, it's backwards, it's premature. And I have personally felt this in my world, because I'm a pretty driven, like, I want to get to the result. I want to get to where that person is. And this is where comparison mode comes in. A lot of times is we're comparing ourselves to where someone else is and going, oh, okay, I need to model exactly what they're doing and do exactly their tactics and you know, whether it's they're building webinars or you know, funnels, or, you know, it's like, you're watching them and you're going, okay, I'll just do what they do. The thing is, we don't have the answers of these three key metrics. We don't, unless you know them personally, right, and ask them these questions. They aren't usually, you know, it's like, we're not sure, right? We can't see behind the scenes to know where they really are. It may be the time for them to do that, and hopefully so, right? So I'm not saying some of these things don't work when you implement them. That's not the point. However, I just see so many people struggle with trying to throw the tactics and the activities out there, and then they don't have any money to like support the process, or even to invest in those activities. So for instance, you know, doing webinars that lead to a program, or webinars that lead to a phone call that lead to higher selling, requires an audience. It requires a following. It requires Facebook ads, which is, you know, there's an investment, cash flow that is typically required. So there are other things that you can do that are that would get you to those higher ticket items, right, on your delivery funnel, to get you immediate cash. And that's what we want to look at. That's what we want to work towards. Hey, David, and I saw Carrie earlier. How are you? Good morning. Thanks for being here. And so I just wanted to like really kind of shed light on this. I think people aren't talking about this because we're just seeing so much promise, like, oh, if you just do this one thing, this one activity, you'll make a lot of money. And then people wonder why it's not working. So I just find it to be a symptom of not having these metrics handled and not being in somewhat of a priority focus. And so I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years. Now I kind of took the long road, right? And so the iteration of this business, my coaching and strategy business, has been more like 5 years. And I did not do everything that I'm doing today in the first year or second year or third year, right? There was a priority of order of things. And I I got highly visible. I got out there belly to belly, face to face with people, and got people on my calendar and started, building my coaching business. And it works because those are where I had to, livelihood is important to me, like paying my mortgage, right? So me selling a $97 product to 100 people is not fast enough at that stage, right? So we have to look at where are you? What stage are you in? What phase are you in? What's your cash flow status? Do you have the money to back up the investments that are going to be required for these different types of tactics? And, what's the other tool that I use, or the other decision maker? It's called input versus impact. And it's kind of like an XY axis. If anybody knows what that is for math, back in the day, is basically the higher the input and the higher or the lower the impact. You don't want to do those things first. So input can be money, time, resources, right? Like having to put money in and all of those things. Like what's the input that's required? And if that's really high and the impact is fairly low, like it's going to take time or it's going to take a while for you to get to where you want to go, then that's not the first thing you do compared to something that is low input and high impact. So speaking, for instance, that's one marketing strategy. I talk about it a lot. And I think I mentioned it on my last live about marketing. Speaking has a lower input because you can show up and do it for free. You don't have to pay anything. And all you have to do is ask for it and show up in front of 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And you can have a high impact from that experience, right? You can have clients coming into your business pretty quickly. And so that's my point, is we want to look at the metrics in your business. So this is a decision-making process. It's not, it's not cookie cutter. You can't apply it to everyone at the same moment. So we have to look at the key metrics that I just mentioned, then look at the input versus impact of the various ideas, because you may be overwhelmed with ideas like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. I'm watching them. I can do what they're doing. And that's when we get into like crazy town, right? And we start going a little nutty because we don't know where to start. We don't know where to stop. We don't know like what to do first. And I get that. I really do, because we're trying to, I think the energy about that is that we're so desperate to get to the result that we're willing to just like throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, instead of stepping back and being really strategic and having a plan and having a focus. And that's what I help people with, clearly. And if you've got a coach or something like that, then that's what I think the conversation should be for you and that coach is, or strategist, whoever you're working with. Because if they're not looking at it from a comprehensive view like that, then they're only looking at one tactic. And so that one tactic may not be the thing that you're ready for. And that's kind of the red flag. Like, make sure that the metrics are looked at, right? What's the phase, the cash flow status, and the delivery funnel. Like, what are you selling and how much are you selling it for? Where are you taking people? When you start to look at your marketing and your sales strategies, et cetera, and then come up with the plan. Then start implementing and stay focused. I usually know it's kind of like a 6-month window, meaning, I mean, that's a gauge. If I know that I'm going to do something, a tactic that I'm going to implement, I'm usually making that decision about 6 months before and then preparing for that plan, right? Like making that happen. And if I can do it faster because it makes sense and I'm in the right space with all these metrics, then I do it, right? It's not about pausing and waiting and all that, but I was talking to somebody yesterday, a friend of mine, I don't know if Kristen's in the room or watching, but she said it, and I've heard this, and this before, is sometimes we have to slow down to grow fast, right? And slow down, for me, what my distinction about that is to kind of like step back, look at the big picture, look at where you're trying to go, where are you trying to take people, and what would make sense to implement, and then take the necessary steps to implement that, and which one's going to have the lowest impact, lowest input with the highest impact, and put them in that order, right? And so, for instance, when I started doing my 3-day events, again, not in the first year, not in the second year, right? That 3-day event absolutely has a lot of input. It's lots of money, lots of time, lots of filling the event, lots of negotiating with the hotel. I even had an event team, right, which took money. And so that was a high input. However, it did have a high impact. So it scaled. It was overlapping all of the low input, high impact things that I was doing to keep my foundation built and keep the cash flow coming in while I was doing that event setup and preparation. Because there's a lot of input before you get to the impact, because the impact's on day 3 of the event, right? Then I sold $200,000 from the stage. So anyway, please comment below. If you're here live, thank you. If you're on the replay, thank you. Hit hashtag replay. Let me know you've watched this, and tell me what this is bringing up for you. What is this? What thoughts are coming up? What awareness is this bringing to you? Because I really feel like this is a conversation that doesn't get much notice, or certainly not. It's not something we talk about enough. And I just want to keep it present for you, because this sometimes is it's what you're feeling, but you're not able to articulate it. And like I said, we don't want to be putting on our shoes before we pull up our pants, right? It's out of order. And, you'd look a little funny walking around the street with just shoes on. So it's one of those things that we, and then you have these kind of results from just wearing the shoes. So I digress. Anyway, please let me know how this has helped. I'm going to put the link below for if you want to grab the evolution of a Brave Master. And also, please make sure that you start reaching out to get the help that you really need. If you do not have the strategic help that I'm suggesting, because I think that's what slows people down the most, is not knowing what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and all of that, right? We go into confusion and then it stalls us out. So let me know how this has supported you. And I can't wait to hear about your wins, your successes, and your ahas. So thanks for being here. And hi, David. Yes, let me see. It's a sequence of events. Put the events in proper sequence. Yes, please. Thank you for validating that. So thank you for being here, and I can't wait to hear more from you. All right, have a fabulous, what day is it? Wednesday, and I'll see you on the next live.